and we don't want to forget all those things. And they started packing everything up, using a bathroom scale to kind of figure out exactly how much they had. And they got it down to 200 pounds on the dot. And when the soldiers returned, they asked, "Are you ready?" And they said, "Yes." And they asked, "Did you weigh all your stuff?" And they said, "Yes, we did. 200 pounds to the mark, right on the dot." Then the soldiers asked, "Did you weigh the kids?" And they said, "No." So they weighed the kids. And then they started to look at all the stuff that they gathered up and realized that those things were not as important as the children in their lives. It surpasses all the value that they saw. Sometimes things happen in our lives that can be a shocking way. We are instantly seeing things differently in a new light. We start to see things differently, and we start to value things differently. And sometimes we start to look at things in the past and we say, "I don't understand how I absolutely needed that in my life or valued that in my life. It is absolutely nothing to me. It is absolutely nothing to me." And you're more than happy to leave it behind. It says in 1 John chapter 2, verse 15, "If you love the world, the love of the Father is not in him." Many times we start to see things in this world and we start to realize we maybe want those things and we think that we need those things and we have to have those things. But then we start to focus in on the love of the world and not the love of God. In our first verse today we see in Philippians chapter 3, verse 4, in the second part. And this is kind of the beginning of where Paul is starting to talk about some of the things that he has been enlightened to. He says, if someone else thinks they've had a reason to put confidence in flesh, I have more. This is how it works in Paul's life and how he has developed a relationship with Christ. Paul had been a very proud Pharisee and blameless under the law. If you look into chapter 5 and 6, or verse 5 and 6 of chapter 3, his past was and still could be assessed as something popular and something great, and not even embarrassing or subject to frustration or despair, something that he could possibly be even proud of in his life. But I want you to understand something. Paul is writing these letters in Philippians from a place that most of us don't understand, that you could find joy and happiness and excitement and energy. Paul is in prison, waiting execution. And he's writing about the excitement and energy of Jesus Christ. He continues on about his faith and decisions to change and seeing how the world is grabbing at things and all this garbage that is out there. In Philippians chapter 3, verse 8 and 9, it says, "I consider everything I lost because of the surpassing wealth of knowing Jesus Christ my Lord, for whose sake have I lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ and be found in him." Since Jesus found Paul on that road to Damascus, everything was different. Everything had changed. Where he once was running after the Christians and persecuting them, approved of all these murders, and approved of the world around him, saying, "This is the right thing to do. This is the good thing to do." Now he is running towards Christ, who has found him. Where he was once proud of his ancestry, his achievements, and all the stuff that he thought was great, now means nothing to him. Continuing on in verse 10, Paul had a new goal, a new prize, and it was worth it to him. It was Jesus Christ, his Lord. C.S. Lewis wrote that when human beings are far too easily pleased, we are content with ourselves to eat a piece of Spam as a comparison to eating a free steak on the menu. Now, I don't know if you've ever had Spam. I would not suggest it. I got it one time, a long time ago. I figured, everybody talks about Spam, and I was like, I want to try it. So I opened up that canister, Dumped it all out, cut it out into a couple slices. I figured, well, I'll cook it up like I do, like, bologna or something, because I like bologna. I took a bite of that, and I was like, this is the worst stuff in the world. I don't understand how anybody really, and like, there's whole cultures of people out there that put it on everything and eat it everywhere, and like, it's just, I don't get it. Now, I'm not mocking you. I kind of am. I am going to judge you from afar. That's fine. It's my opinion. It's the worst thing ever. But that's okay. It's okay. If I had a choice, I'd be going for the steak. I just enjoy a steak. I pick a steak out of it. Yes, do you have a comment in the back of the room there? Go ahead.
You need to put it on a stick and cook it over a fire.
I don't think it's going to make a difference. No way.
And then throw it away and eat the steak.
Canada camping out. Spam, save us.
Well, okay, fine. If you want to be saved, you have to get some nourishment. I get that. But, like, not just eating it. Like, if I have the choices here, I'm not doing that. It's like looking at the ocean, or being in the ocean, or even being by the beach there and then just enjoying all that, but like you prefer playing in the mud puddle instead. I mean, there's a big difference between the two. It doesn't say there's nothing wrong with the mud puddle, and there's nothing wrong with spam, in a sense. But if you had a choice, I think you would choose at least something that tastes a little better and enjoy the view of the ocean and the waters of the ocean. So, once you give your life to Christ and taste and see that He is good, you can truly enjoy Him and then never go back to that sinful life again. Now, I know it's tough. As a young man, kind of learning all about these things, trying to figure this all out, I tread many different ways of trying to understand Jesus Christ and who He was and how He's a part of my life. And with all that experience in the walk in relationship with Jesus Christ, it's something that I don't ever want to go back on and go back to the way it was, or go back to a different type of choices and a different way of living. It's just garbage. It really is. Even as Paul said, it was garbage. It's trash. It's nothing. Why are we holding on to those things? In 2 Corinthians 5:17, if anyone is in Jesus Christ, is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. The new has come. Have you experienced that truth in your life? Now, have you really sat down and thought about it? Like, I have experienced the transformation life of living in Jesus Christ and having Him a part of my life. I am a new creation. Have you really thought about that? How Christ is in your life? You have a great opportunity. Even right now. Sitting there. If you need to come to the altar at any time, it's open. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to come to God. And sometimes we get excited about our life and some of the things that we have. There's an old story about these old friends that were talking, and they were discussing, kind of things that motivate them and guide them in their decisions. And they started to talk, and they said, I kind of wished I would do things more on a Christian decision, because they were made, instead of some of the decisions I made in my past, on materials or ego or pride and things like that. And the other friend said, well, I wish I was really a Christian at all. And the question really was meant that I was trying to create this perfect Christianity way of living, but the reality is sometimes we battle every day. The realization that we have to have Christ in our life every day is important. Even the decisions that we make, the choices that we make, it's so hard, I know. Because you see a lot of things and you're like, man, that cheeseburger would look so great right now. I'm so tempted. Oh, I don't really need it. But boy, do I want it. Lord, hold me back. I'll get the chicken salad. Oh, no, I'm still looking at the sandwich. I'm still thinking cheeseburger. Chicken salad, I need that. Better for my heart. It's hard. It's so hard. I know. John Wesley even talked about some things in this movement. He was the Methodist movement, defines Christian perfection as having a habitual love for God and neighbors. Now, if you want to try to reach that, and that's where we're striving towards, it's kind of like, what would Jesus do? The whole bracelet movement and everything. What would he? That's what you're doing, is you're looking to strive. Do I ever think that we reach perfection? Probably not, but we are doing the best that we can. We're doing what we can in our lives. That's the decision that many of us want, is to try to have a habit of loving others, a habit of loving those around us, and have a habit of loving God. And having, when you love God in your life, the choices and decisions in your life are different. It's a bigger picture, a bigger perspective, and you see things a little bit more clearly. Things that are bad right now in your life, if you're not a Christian, I'm telling you, it's a lot worse trying to get through it. I had somebody I worked with in mental health, and she was atheist from the very beginning of it all. But she talked about, like, one of the things that she found interesting in this study of people that were in the hospital, the recovery process of those of people in faith were faster than those who were not. So it almost attributes to the idea of the power of prayer and faith in God. And they always seem to have a little bit more of a smile, a little bit more of a positive energy. It's something you don't ever see in the world today, do you? Even right now, when we see all the things on the TV and all the things that are going on, we are not seeing a lot of positive things out there, and happiness and Christ-like energy. It has fallen apart. See, before Paul's conversion, he believed his righteousness and goodness and perfection was something he had to achieve by working hard and having a dedication in his life to other things. He would grit his teeth and try hard enough to do whatever he can to be successful. He needed to have enough willpower and self-strength to be able to do these things. It was a never-ending death march for him in the life of existence that he had. That self-esteem that he had to build up every day, all on his own. And his joy was lacking and was never-ending, and his life was more of a cold, snowy, rainy day. Life for Paul was a battle to conquer all things. You see, Paul was trying to run, but he was running in the wrong direction before his conversion. There's a book called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, arguing that most of us have been running in the wrong direction, literally running in the wrong direction. For example, we think we're running as a means of the end, maybe to get into shape, live a little longer. And when we run, we try to protect ourselves against maybe some injury by padding our feet and maybe wearing the proper kind of shoes. But McDougall pointed out that the indigenous tribe of Mexico showed us a different way of running. They honed their abilities by running hundreds of miles without resting, without injuring themselves. And part of this reason is that the people ran, they were always wearing simple sandals. At a young age, they would run upright on the front pads of their feet instead of the arches and the heels that we are normally used to running in. Beyond that, they ran because they didn't understand, or they understood that running was a way of life. It was a part of their meaning of being human beings. Why do these crowds of humans run in these races that are 26 miles long unless it shows up in your DNA? I don't think any sane person would do it. Unless it's somebody that feels like that's what they enjoy, that's what they like. But for them, it's not a chore. It's something they enjoy. There was a track coach who was studying the runners of these indigenous runners from Mexico, and he was trying to figure out what made them tick and made them work so he could figure out how to maybe do that towards his own track team. And he started following them and watching them, and he saw the joy in the way that they run. And even when the runners were going on a hard part of the course that was maybe up hills and all over kind of obstacles, he saw in their faces that they were very joyful in the running of the race. If we're running in the wrong direction, are we happy? I mean, we're trying to strive for happiness, buying all our stuff, getting all our things, We think, well, that maybe makes me happy. But as soon as we turn around and run in the right direction, everything changes. Everything's different. You see, the next part of Paul's letter to the Philippians, notice how he's filled with joy, even while he's in prison. In Philippians chapter 3, 12 through 14, we start to see Paul is running the race, pressing on, straining forward for what lies ahead. He's practically laughing and enjoying his time. He's running in a different way, different than what he has run before, different than what he has done before. Running with freedom and knowledge that he has nothing to prove. Nothing to prove in the sense because when he starts running the race and he's battling out there, he's not battling alone. And actually, the war has already been won. The race has already been won. And one of the greatest things about all this experience is that in this marathon, in this news that we see, he's reaching God, has already conquered all these things. He's already won the battle. Christ has done it for him and never done it on his own. You do not do it by yourself. Christ has already made the way and won the race for you. Jesus Christ sacrificed for himself to justify his existence, and the burdens lifted off his shoulders. He is free to run. He follows Jesus Christ not because he must, but because he may and he can, and he has chosen and he was born to run. In Philippians, that joy and excitement, Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Even when he hits the hill and we hit those struggles in our world, there's nothing better than knowing that the love of Jesus Christ is there to push you through. And what's so interesting about this is when you run a race, have you ever run a race before? Sometimes you have to have somebody that's running with you as kind of like the pace setter. Well, I'm telling you, you have the ultimate pace setter right there beside you in Jesus Christ, running that race. He's meeting us stride for stride. This race is a race, not just some test of willpower or personal wealth or anything like that. It's a joyful journey of the good news that fills our soul. So the questions are, where does your confidence come from? Where does it really come from? What are you chasing after? What's your motivation in the morning? What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the coffee that you drink? I hope it's more than that. What else are you running away from, or what are you running into? Do you know who Jesus Christ is? And are you trying to be like him? There's good news. Jesus Christ died and rose from the dead. Love has defeated him, defeated death. So run. Run the race because you were born to run the race. Forget what lies behind. Forget the past. Strain forward towards what lies ahead. Press on towards the goal. Keep your eyes on that prize. Because the race and the prize is in Jesus Christ. And it is worth it. It is worth it. I have a video to close out for the service.
Breathe the
As we are preparing ourselves to take communion, we'll take this opportunity to kind of prepare for it, but I want you to kind of reflect upon that a little bit and kind of think about where we are and why we are taking the sacraments this morning. So.